Welcome, everyone. So, today we are here to talk about our new shopping adventure. We are looking for a new camper, and a lot of you have picked up on the fact that we are because lately we've been doing a lot of walkthrough videos.
A lot of
And
shopping.
yes, and people have been contacting us saying, "Are you shopping for a new camper?" And we've kind of stayed quiet about it. But recently we decided it's time to let the cat out of the bag. One of the reasons for that is for those of you who don't know, our van is a Heimer Active, and Heimer recently closed their doors. Last Friday, they announced that they were closing their doors, going into receivership. This was a total shock to us, and the reason why this actually affected us directly is because we've been working with Heimer. We've had a partnership with them for the last almost 2 years, and early last week, we actually got in touch with them to say, it's been great, but we are going to be moving on and doing our own thing because one of the big reasons we've been shopping for another vehicle is we really want to own our own camper again. When we first hit the road, we were in a Class A. We could outfit it however we wanted, go wherever we wanted, and that's been a limiting factor for us in the Active. Because it was in someone else's name, we couldn't take it down to Mexico or ship it overseas to Europe. And I know a lot of you have asked us when we're going to Europe in a van, and who knows, maybe in our next camper we can finally ship it over there. So
Yeah, so we're really excited. I mean, we've been looking at all types of campers. We're certainly not ruling out all the different options. I keep joking to Joe that since our first RV was a Class A and our second one was a Class B, naturally we should just move to a Class C, but a small one. And you have not been too
enthusiastic?
too enthusiastic about that.
No.
But I mean, we've been looking at everything from, custom vans to
Expedition vehicles
expedition
made to go
vehicles.
around the world. So for those of you who saw our video, what was it, last week?
Yes.
We posted a walkthrough we did of an Earth Cruiser. And we heard they came out with a new truck camper model that we saw at Overland Expo East. Heard they were at the Barrett-Jackson auto auction, so we actually went out of our way, went to the auto auction just so we could see this thing in person and really get to spend some time in it and get the cameras out. Loved it, way out of our price range.
Yes. And, before I forget, so Cece, one of our WTR family members, made a point and asked the question, would we consider keeping the Active?
Oh, good question.
That we have on loan from Heimer.
Yep, so let me address that. Early last week, when we sent that note to Heimer, we included a bit asking them if it would be possible to acquire the van. They came back and said, unfortunately, that's not a possibility right now. When the news came out on Friday that they had closed their doors, we finally understood why. However, a Heimer is not completely out of the question. There are still some on dealers' lots, and one thing I've been thinking about that I learned quite a bit about in our previous motorhome is, there is doubt and concern over the warranties for new Heimers and Road Treks. It's been, I think, a bad situation all around for everyone from owners to those who are at the company and dealers. But that said, if we were to get a new Heimer, or even if for some reason they came back and said, hey, you can, we'll work out a deal with your current Heimer, we would seriously consider it because although there may not be a valid warranty from the company, and again, I still don't know what the situation there is, you still have the warranty on the Ram chassis itself. And one thing a lot of people may not be thinking about is you have warranties for a lot of the systems in the van. So the microwave, for example, comes with its own warranty. I've used those in the past when we had issues with our Class A motorhome, and I didn't want to wait a month or two to get into a service center. So what I would do is I would take it apart myself and call the company to get a part or get a replacement. One of the companies who was great with that was Fantastic Fan or Fantastic Vents. They sent me new parts whenever I needed them, and that's always an option. Unfortunately, if you're not able to install it yourself, you'll have to pay out of pocket for it, but it is something we're considering.
Absolutely. So that transitions to what are our must-haves for our new camper, because we really love the layout and the way
The
things are
Heimer is set up.
situated
Yeah.
in the Heimer.
So I would say our number one, which was our number one when we were shopping for a camper van, is that it can fit into a parking spot. That has been a huge thing for us, transitioning from a Class A towing a Jeep to just having a van. Um, we love the ability to go just about anywhere, and that's proving even more so the case here on Maui.
Yes.
So it's kind of cemented our decision that whatever we get, we want to fit into a standard parking spot. Now, that said, we have looked at a few different tow behinds. One was the Oliver, the other was a couple of the Bigfoot trailers. And while we liked both and they were really high quality, we just couldn't see ourselves towing another thing behind us where you have two, not vehicles, but two things to go around and not be able to just roll into any parking lot you want. I think that's a big thing for us. We've gone truck shopping. We've considered truck campers, and we've looked at truck campers. I mean, some of the Lances are very nice. We took a look at Host, Bigfoot. There's a new one out. I think it's called Cirrus. We looked at those.
But not in did we see those in person?
Yes, at the Tampa show.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
We didn't film them. We just popped in and kind of toured around. And like I said, we've looked at trucks. We test drove the Chevy, the Ford. We've looked at Rams. We've looked at all sorts of different vans for custom build outs. I think right now we really like the Transit with the EcoBoost engine on the longer chassis, dual rear wheels.
With the highest roof.
Yeah, it has the highest roof. But I will say the nice thing about the ProMaster is it is the widest van in the class that I'm aware of. So, there's give and take with everything.
Yeah.
Let's see. We've also gone to Outside Van and Sportsmobile. They custom build vans, and that is a serious consideration for us.
We've also looked at small Class Cs.
We have.
I know you're not a big fan. But
hey, hold on. So it's not that I'm not a big fan. I love like the leisure travel vans and some of those. We saw a really cool Pleasureway that has a Murphy bed. But for me, it's bigger than I want. And while it may not be any longer than some of the Mercedes or Ford Transits out there, it's wider. And I just see, as while it's still kind of an option in the back of my head, I see it as something that is kind of lower on the list. I think for me, right now, number 1 and 2 would be truck camper or some sort of van. What about you?
Well,
you can see we've talked all about this.
I love the idea of having one unit that fits in a standard parking spot. So the small Class Cs are out. But I really enjoy looking at them because they just give you a little bit more space.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I've really enjoyed looking at the Born Free, Built for Two. Unfortunately, that company is no longer in business. So there are very limited used units out there. But that's the other thing is we're not just looking at new units. We're looking at a lot of used units.
Yes.
Joe has spent a lot of time on Craigslist and various other forums looking at used units.
I've gone so far as to look at units that were out in like the early 90s, late 80s. My idea is as long as we can get strong bones, we could rehab the whole inside of the van and build it out to kind of our own spec. I know a lot of people asked when we were shopping for a van the first time why we didn't build out our own or if we were going to build out one. To me, I've met a lot of people who have done it, and that's just a project I don't want to undertake. There is a lot to do and a lot to consider. I mean, the cabinets and everything you see is just a small part of it. There is a lot of wiring, plumbing, insulation, getting the right materials, putting it all together so that when you drive down the road, it's not falling apart on you or rattling. So I think we're looking for someone else to do the build out, but as far as the shell is concerned, I would go with an old one if, that's an option. If we find something we like and maybe gut it, do something else.
Now, Robert says, I would love to see you in a Pleasureway Plateau FL.
Robert's been emailing us about the Pleasureway, and we spoke about it. So we like Pleasureway. We think they are, from what we've seen, very well made. Some cool technology there. They're made up in Canada, and we've heard from a lot of owners who really love them and swear by them. Our thing is, though, when you think about a van and the layout, especially for something we're planning on keeping long term and living out of, for us, most of those Mercedes vans or vans with a similar floor plan have a convertible couch in the back. So during the day, the couch kind of goes up. It's your living room or work area. And then at night, it folds down into your bed. Our thing with that is, and I think this goes back to what we're, kind of our list of wants in a new camper, is to have a dedicated work or living area up front or in some part of the vehicle or trailer, whatever it is, and then a bed in the back, a dedicated bed. Now, like our bed in the Active, you can lift up the middle and kind of convert it a little bit, but for the most part, we leave it down all the time.
I certainly don't want to convert our bed every day.
No. Plus, the other thing is, Kate tends to get up much earlier than I, and I tend to go to bed much later. So there is a couple hours overlap every day where I'm either up working and she's in bed or things like that.
All right. Are you... This is funny. So Jim says, how about a yurt with a 2-yak hitch?
Hey, if it's within our budget, I would consider it.
And if we were going to do this type of travel around Tibet, that would be perfect.
Yeah, so funny thing, completely off topic. For those of you who missed our Tibet videos, we did one about our train ride up to Lhasa. And somehow that video got picked up in India and a few other places of the world, and it's been going like gangbusters recently. I think we went from maybe 12 or 15,000 views, and now within a month, we're over 160,000.
That was unexpected.
Very.
A pleasant surprise. All right, back on track. Chris, from Where is Chris Now, asked, have you considered wilderness vans built in Canada?
We haven't. So I think after this, we're going to have to look them up. We're considering pretty much anything. We don't have anything specific in mind at the moment. We've shopped for a few things. We've looked at a lot of websites. And I think at this point, when we get back from Maui, it's going to be hardcore shopping, trying to figure out what our next home is.
All right. Another question is, are you shopping with a motorcycle in mind?
So I don't know if anybody caught it, but when Kate was talking about small class C's earlier, I was sitting here and all of a sudden I looked down at the camera and I saw a big smile on my face. The reason for that is, one point I forgot to bring up is I'm not a big fan of small class C's because they don't tend to have the carrying capacity that a B does on the same chassis. And one of the reasons why I want that is I want to put a motorcycle on the back. I've taken enough motorcycles around lately that I think I want to get a nice dual sport. I'm looking for a DR350, so we can thank our friends in Tucson for that one. And put that on the back on a motorcycle hitch carrier and take that around the country.
And you sort of addressed this question a bit earlier.
Okay.
Which is, a lot of people, ever since we moved into the van, asked us why we didn't build our own, or would we consider building out our own van.
Yep.
And someone who joined the chat said that they actually just got a high roof standard length Transit with EcoBoost, and it's amazing. Well worth the small increase in price.
That's what we've heard. Friends of ours who are in the industry have said if you get a Transit, get the EcoBoost, you will not be disappointed. They said not only is it extremely comfortable drive, but it's quite a bit of fun.
I think we would definitely consider the Transit.
Absolutely.
All right.
Speaking of which, so we've test driven, as I mentioned earlier, a bunch of heavy duty trucks, but I think it's time we go test drive some vans.
Absolutely.
Because aside from maybe a quick run around a parking lot or something in a Mercedes, we've never really taken a Mercedes out, and we've never driven a Transit. So I think we may need to go look for a rental or something and take a few out.
Absolutely. It's always a good idea.
Oh. Jinx.
Me first.
Go ahead.
This question popped up. For our next camper,
yes.
Would we go for a cassette toilet?
Absolutely. With a caveat. I would either do a cassette toilet or one of the porta potties that are they're not fixed to anything. You can slide it into a cabinet or something, because they are extremely easy to use, very versatile, and I haven't had a complaint with them. I wouldn't. People have asked if we would do a composting toilet, and I've seen enough things, and we've had some friends that have had composting toilets go bad on them. You still have to dump the urine tank every day or every other day, and to me, it doesn't really add all that much extra benefit over a cassette toilet. The cassette works well for us. I would want to keep doing it. I think there was a question. Oh, so I do want to go back for a minute, babe.
Mm-hmm.
A few other things we're looking for in our next vehicle is lots of solar, big battery bank. I think since we've been in the active, that's been something we've really liked having. We would have a bit of a larger fridge, and we wouldn't have a stove unless we needed it to become, to title our vehicle as a RV.
And no shower.
No shower. Well, hold on. I would do a shower, but I would do the outside shower on the back.
Right, but not a shower space
Correct.
in the
Yeah.
camper. Because it takes up a lot of room, and we much rather shower elsewhere.
It does.
Yes. All right. Are you ready for more questions?
Go.
Would you consider a 4x4 Class B van?
Uh-huh. Absolutely. I think anything we look at, number one on our list is 4x4.
Or all-wheel drive?
Or all-wheel drive. And not so much that we can take it rock climbing or do something like that. For me, it's more about insurance and not necessarily being able to get out somewhere, but being able to get back in. So we've been places, and if there's rain coming or something, we kind of hightail it out. We tend to stay away from sand, mud, wet grass, and having all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive would sure be a boost for us. What else?
Have you looked at Safari Condo on the GMC? Really nice.
We've just seen them online.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen them in person.
No.
The only Safari Condo we've seen is Kate's uncle has an Alto, their trailer. And from what we've seen and what they've told us, it's very well built. It's held up well, and it's actually made it through, a couple hurricanes now?
Yeah.
In Florida. They left it parked outside, and it actually became their little escape area when the power was out, because they could go in their Alto. They had solar, they had battery, and just hang out in there. So Safari Condo would definitely be a consideration. And I like the GMC van.
Have you considered Advanced RV in Ohio?
We have. We went up there and did a little shopping trip. We didn't film anything, but we met Mike and had a really nice time. Got to see the facilities, the way they're built, and I'll tell you, those things are pricey. But when you get into the facility and you see all the time, the effort, the materials, and everything that goes into them, you start to see why they're so pricey. However, even used ones I've seen them for $250,000, and that is just way out of our budget.
Yes. But they do install this really quiet AC unit.
Oh, yeah.
That
I think if
is
we
a
were
world of difference.
If we were to get another vehicle with AC in it, and AC I'm not even sold on, but if we did, I'd want to take it up there and see if they could install that AC unit for us.
See, I think I would prefer to have two fans, really good fans, over an AC unit.
That would get us about 90% of the time, but then you get some places and it's just hot and miserable, and all you want to do is put the AC on.
Then you just drive.
Drive, put the dash
weather.
AC on, and keep going.
Oh, and I don't know if you mentioned this in our must-haves for our next rig, but something I definitely want is a secondary alternator.
Yes, if it's possible in the vehicle we're in. A secondary alternator would also be very good. We have one in the active, and we love having that ability. and not needing to carry around a generator. What else?
Someone wants to know how much a motorcycle hitch would add to the overall length of a camper.
It depends on the hitch you get. The ones I've been looking at, since we would be doing this full time, have been much sturdier, and I want to say they're in the neighborhood of about 150 pounds. I would look for ways. I would probably go down to a metal fabricator and either buy a hitch and have them modify it, or have the metal fabricator make me one in such a way where it mounts to more than one point, or there's more than one anchor on the van, so it's not flopping around at all and putting all that stress on the hitch. But all in, for the DR350, wet weight is about like 300 pounds ish, and then about another 150. So right there, for most hitches on vans or even some trucks, you're right at about 500. So that's probably the maximum you want to be.
Moving off topic a little bit.
Okay.
Well, not really. Is it hard to find places on our travels to work on the van? So I think what their question is, as we're traveling in a camper, are we finding it difficult to have work done?
So we really haven't had too many issues on the road to deal with. But
well, I think it's two parts, right? One part is getting service done on the chassis, and then the second part is getting work done on the camper side.
So on the chassis itself, since this is a Ram chassis, we can take it to almost any Ram dealership. You have to call ahead and make sure that they're able to service the commercial vehicles. We've been some places that haven't. We had to drive somewhere else in order just to even get an oil change. But it's fairly common. And I think that's one reason we're looking at Ram and Ford over Mercedes. Because if you look at the United States as a whole, and even other parts in North America, Mercedes dealerships, unless you're near a city center, are few and far between, and not even all of those are able to service a Sprinter. As far as the interior itself, when your vehicles, our vehicles have all been under warranty, so we've always taken them to a service center that serviced that vehicle's warranty. So sometimes it has been difficult because you have to call ahead when you're on the road, and some of these places put their customers first in line. Other places, especially down in Florida during the winter, are just booked out for months in advance. However, if you're willing to spend out of pocket or you're out of warranty, you can pretty much get work done on most motorhomes by any RV repair person. Unless you need a specific part from the company that only they make, most of the times people can fix just about anything. I mean, Dometic, the refrigerator, the AC unit, they're on all sorts of different vehicles. So most of the stuff in here, any RV repair person who is worth their salt can handle.
Have you ever felt that your rig was too long? So the Active 2.0 is, 20 feet and 10 inches?
20 feet, 10 inches, but it also has the spare tire on the back, so let's call it 21.
I wouldn't say I felt it was long, but now that we've been vanning it around Maui in the 1.0, which is how long?
19 and a half or
19
something.
and a half. I definitely noticed the difference.
Yes, I do too. And I've noticed if we were in a place like Maui, I would not want the longer van. There have been a few places we've pulled in where we pulled up to a bakery yesterday. We backed into the spot, and the nose of the van was right on the line of the road. So had we been any longer, we would have been sticking out in traffic.
Going back to our camper.
Okay.
Would we consider Lithium or AGM?
Now that I've had Lithium, I really like it. I think it is a great option and well worth the money if it's something you're going to do. However, if you are going to be doing a lot of traveling, especially in cold weather, or taking your rig other places in the world, my preference then would be AGM. The AGM batteries are more universal. If you can get one shipped out to you, you don't have to get that specific one sent out. I think AGM right now are more universal, but Lithium offers a lot over AGMs, and I've really enjoyed having them. So it's a bit of a toss-up. I would say right now I'm 70% AGM and 30% lithium on our next rig.
That transitions to what minimum solar wattage, battery amperage, and inverter wattage would we want to get?
I would say if we had the room for it, minimum solar would be 300 watts. What do you think?
That sounds good. 300
Yeah,
minimum.
300 minimum.
But it also depends on the efficiency of the panels, right?
True.
So, good quality over
Trumps sometimes larger size.
Yes.
I would go with a minimum 2,000 watt pure sine inverter. If we saw the need, I could definitely push that up to 3,000 watts. Don't really think you need much more than that, especially for the stuff we do and the systems we would have on board. And then I would do with lithium, I would keep us at 400 amp hours. If I went with AGM and we had the room for it, I would want up to 600 amp hours because AGMs are only efficient, or you can only draw them down to about 50%. Lithiums you can draw down 80 to 90%. So that's the reason. So
shout out to Kayla.
Kayla, thank you so much for the super chat. It's really good to see you on here. And I think when we get back, I'm going to have to order some coffee from, the name is blanking on me now.
La Colombe.
Yeah, La Colombe. I love that stuff.
Yes. And we've got a postcard coming to you from Maui, so
yes.
Check your mailbox. All right. Are you ready for more?
Yes. Keep going. This is fun. I'm enjoying it. Hit me with more questions.
For our future camper,
yes,
would you get 4-season?
Yes. Absolutely. And I think that's more for this one over here. I went to school in the cold, so I know how nasty it can get. Kate, however, wants to go camping in the cold and take our next vehicle into the cold. She's also made the suggestion that she wants to go up to Alaska and be there for the cold in a vehicle. I don't know how possible that is, but whatever we get next, I want it to be as 4-season as possible.
Lots of insulation, all the lines inside, all the tanks inside.
Well, the good thing about all the insulation is even if we don't go cold camping, it's still going to be great for hot weather. Okay, what's next?
Have you looked at the CrossFit that's on a 4 chassis?
Oh, so funny enough, if you look at the thumbnail image for this video, that was a CrossFit we were looking at, and we actually liked it quite a bit. It was a nice layout. We like the Ford platform, and that was at EAA summer of last year. And I think after we saw that and we saw some of the other Ford products, we started thinking to ourselves, hey, a Transit might be the next vehicle for us. What did you think of it?
I liked it. The thing I like about the Transit is the tall roof.
Yeah.
The height. I like that. It's the tallest, right, out of the big 3.
Mm-hmm.
But one we haven't really looked at that I know people are starting to build out is the Nissan NV.
Yeah. My only thing with the NV is you can only get it in one length, and it's pretty short. So I've seen a few build outs with it, but I haven't seen a floor plan where I'm like, wow, that's the one. I think for us, if we're talking about vans, the floor plan I like the best is really kind of the way the Active is set up. So you have this living room area in the front, kitchen along one side or the other, some cabinets, and then in the back, a platform bed. And the reason I like a platform bed is it splits the height back in the back of the van. So all the space below the bed you can use as storage. That is a big boon for people who are living in a space this small.
We just got a super chat from, I think it's Gross Tabernac.
Tabernac.
And he says, do not go to Alaska in the cold.
I try to tell her that, and I see you're from Canada, so I've tried to tell Kate, we don't need to go to Alaska during the winter. We can go up there when it's just a little cold. But
there are no mosquitoes when it's cold. Do you see why I want to go when it's cold?
He knows.
All right. Um,
And
wow.
thank you a lot for the super chat.
Yes, really appreciate
Really
it.
appreciate that.
Wow, we've been on for quite a while. So
Yeah, but it's fun.
I'll take a few more questions. These are slightly off topic. Someone says, since the price of a camper van is somewhat almost the price of certain Class A and Class C RVs,
Yes.
in terms of money, do you think it's better to get a bigger unit and tow a car than to get a camper van?
It's so I'll go back to something we've said for a long time, and that is when people ask us to recommend a. Well, before I get into that, road trip buddy, thank you very much for the super chat. And what's up? Anyway, when people have asked us what we would recommend, we don't like to recommend things because we tell people it's a very personal choice. The motorhome, even if you're only using it for limited amounts of time, becomes your home. And you have certain things you want in your home you have to bring along with you that other people do. But I'll give you my opinion. For me, my preference would be to have a Class B van. The reason for that is the Class B van, that chassis has been crash tested, it has airbags, and it has more structural stability than a Class A, for example. A Class A is basically the manufacturer gets a frame and they build on top of that frame. We actually saw when we had our Newmar Class A and we were at the factory, someone was coming in to get warranty work done, hit a deer along the way, and the entire front end of their motorhome had to be replaced. There's really not anything up there to protect you. That's one reason why I like, let's say, Class C's more in that manner, because you have the truck, you have that engine out in front of you to protect you. But again, that whole structure behind you, how well is it built? Look into that. If you are considering going to buy an RV, I would strongly suggest going to as many factories as you can and seeing how they're built. After you've been to a few, you'll start to see some that stand out above others, and some you'll walk into and be like, you know what, I don't want to own one of these. Others you'll walk into and you'll be like, wow, these are really nice, but most of the time those come with a much higher price tag. So I would say, for the money, if you're okay with the smaller size of the van and a Class A or Class C you're looking at is a comparable price, to me, I would go with the B because of the van itself. Does that make sense?
Yes, I think so. I was only half paying attention because the chat is going bananas. Bananas.
And that said, something I should have brought up earlier, but if you have a question we've missed or haven't gotten to, or it keeps going, so Kate misses a lot, you can send us a super chat. It's this little button down at the bottom of the screen, and that way your question, you can leave it in the super chat. It'll pop up to the top of the screen and we can make sure we answer it for you.
Oh, we just got a super chat from Pete Ward. He says,
Pete.
Love the show. Custom would be cheaper and only what you want.
That's I think where we're leaning. There are a lot of we'll call them big box vehicles or RVs. And while we might love some things about it, there are other things we're not crazy about, and it's kind of a compromise. And while in a small, van or motorhome, whatever it happens to be, you are limited with space, so there are going to be a lot of compromises. But if we were to custom build our own out, it would be a way for us to get, hopefully, exactly what we want. I think I've heard people say by the time you get to your third RV, you finally got the right one.
Hey, we're going on number 3.
Hey.
All right. A few more questions, and then I'm going to take Natman's advice, which is stop the chat and go enjoy Maui. It is a beautiful day. So, earlier you mentioned that we wouldn't do a cooktop.
Yeah.
So, what would we use instead?
The Instant Pot. We would use the Instant Pot, and I think that's about it. You're the one who does most of the cooking.
Instant Pot or outdoor cooking on a fire, grilling. There are plenty of options.
Yeah.
But the Instant Pot would be my go-to.
Yeah, and it's not like we can't get a camp stove if we wanted or a little barbecue, but I think for the most part, we wouldn't have anything built in. We use that more as space. And I want to say a big thank you to Helge. Is that how you pronounce your first name? But thank you very much for the super chat.
Okay. The next question is, don't you like having a door when you use the bathroom? Because we talked about getting rid of a shower inside. Great question. We've talked about this.
Who knows? This might be a little TMI, but I'm going to go there. So, yes, having a door on the bathroom is nice. But when you're in a camper van, for example, and the bed is right next to the toilet, even if the door is closed, to be honest with you, it's not like a door would really make that much of a difference. Kate and I have been, in this space, and we've given up any form of privacy. So I don't think it would really bother us that much. Worst case scenario, if it did, we could put up a curtain or something. So if someone's in bed and the other one has to use the bathroom, you've kind of got a little bit of privacy there. Otherwise, there are times where I might have an emergency or something. I'm like, honey, you need to step out of the van. I'm going to put the fan on and take care of business.
Shout out to CC Cox. Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you, CC.
Y'all are so helpful. South Carolina here. We got to make it back to South Carolina.
We do. We like it there.
We do. Okay. Question for me, which is, how is your cookbook coming?
Oh, boy.
That is a very popular question these days. So my cookbook is on hold because I am reading through Joe's first rewrite of his book. That's my priority right now, and we're trying to get Joe's book published, and then I'll go back to working on my cookbook. So it is coming, and I am working on it.
Hopefully, I'm hoping, depending on how things come with edits and that, to have the book published in the next month or two.
Okay, I'm ending this one with a question about dogs.
Okay.
Would you consider getting another dog? And if so, what size would be best for traveling in a van?
Should we tell them?
Go ahead. Sure.
All right. We haven't gotten a dog. However, dogs have always been near and dear to our heart, especially after we lost Leo. And Kate and I think emotionally, having lost him, and it's been just over a year now, it's been a rough time for us, and we really miss having him around. However, we've enjoyed traveling. But that said, we recently, I think late last year, we became a sponsor of a nonprofit called Mission Canine Rescue. If you look them up and go to their sponsors page, you'll see us on there. And what they do is they bring working dogs home from overseas. These are military police working dogs that are serving overseas. And once their mission is done, they're done. What this group does is they help bring those animals home and, if possible, rehome them with their initial dog handlers. The reason for that is a lot of these people, when they come back from overseas, they're suffering PTSD. The dog is suffering PTSD, and to put those two together really helps. So that's near and dear to our hearts. However, there are dogs that get brought back who their handler is still overseas, or there's some other situation and they need to be rehomed. We've signed up to be one of those homes. I don't know if they'll pick us because we live out of a van, but we tried to make our case, and if all goes well, we could end up with either a Belgian Malinois, a Dutch Shepherd, Lab, or German Shepherd. I've had Labs all of my life. We had a Belgian Shepherd when we had Leo and we were living in a home, or Belgian Malinois. And I think they would all be great dogs. We love big dogs, so if you love big dogs, I would not caution you against them in a space like this. They tend to adapt, and if you're happy, they'll be happy. So.
I've seen Saint Bernards in a van. So
yeah, well, we saw not an Australian. What was the big dog we saw in the Earth Cruiser?
That was a Saint Bernard.
No, it wasn't a Saint Bernard.
Oh, a Bernese Mountain Dog.
Yeah, Bernese Mountain Dog in a tiny truck camper. And it was just loving life.
Yeah. And so. Joe went to the animal shelter a few weeks ago.
I may have almost come home with something.
For our WTR family members, you saw the clip of Jack, and he was a sweet dog.
Yeah, in the pictures I was posting.
And luckily he was adopted. So
yes, he was.
We're not quite ready, but we're also looking while we're shopping for a new camper.
Yeah, so if somehow we end up with a dog.
And a new camper.
That said, while we are shopping, we're staying with family, and my mom just a year ago got a new puppy, so I've been helping train the puppy, take the puppy out. My mom's going to be traveling in March, so we're going to hijack the puppy and take her all over the place, or wherever we can.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, guys.
Special live stream from Maui, Hawaii.
Van life in Maui, it is awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, so we want to say a big thank you to everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and make sure to check out our website, we'retherussos.com. We post a lot of other information there about van life, travel, and all sorts of other cool stuff. And if you ever see us in person, make sure to say hello. So, guys, aloha. Have a good one, and we'll see you next time.
Yes. See you on the mainland.
Bye.